Welcome in, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. It's week 9 here, so we're going live, just going over all the latest injury updates, getting you guys to start sit questions answered, and just getting you guys ready to go for week 9. Got an extra hour of sleep this weekend because of daylight savings, so hopefully that didn't screw with your guys' clocks here. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. We got a lot of sort of surprising injury updates this week. A couple of surprising actives we'll get to. Really, it's just some tough decisions I think a lot of us have to make. Obviously, 2 teams on bye. Lots of injuries, lots of us are hurting there. So I'll just go through all the injury updates, give you guys what I generally think is going to happen there, and then if you guys have any questions, just let me know in the comments, and I'll make sure I answer you here. Cool. So yeah, starting off with the actives. So we'll start off with the good news. We've got Tony Pollard. He will be active. That's a big one. Arthur. For running backs, you've got Pollard, Madison, or Dowdle. I'd play Pollard there. I wouldn't get cute with Madison. Zamir White could be active. Nothing like necessarily that I'd be worried about. Like Madison is the starter there, but that's concerning at least a little bit. And then Dowdle, I think they kind of want to use Dalvin Cook. It's tough to really gauge what they're doing in Dallas right now. So I'd go Pollard even though he's been banged up. They don't have Tajay Spears, so they'll have to lean on him even though he's not 100%. So yeah, other than Pollard being active, we've got Drake May. He cleared concussion protocol. That's great. We should get him in lineups, or not in lineups for fantasy, but he does help the Patriots offense. Makes guys like Demario Douglas and Hunter Henry a little bit more appealing if you need to go there. Tyler Boyd, he'll be active this week. That doesn't mean a whole lot. We saw Calvin Ridley get banged up a little bit. He's gonna play. I don't want to play any of them there, but just keep that in mind. Sounds like Jordan Love will be active, as will Josh Jacobs. So both those guys are technically questionable right now for the Packers. We don't have official word at all from the Packers there, but it's a really important game for them against the Lions. It sounds like both those guys are going to suit up. Let's see, Hopkins or Waddle. Wow, that's tough. I currently would go with Waddle there. It's just tough with Hopkins right now. I want to wait a week. I want to see him be involved in the offense before I trust him in my lineup. So I don't really want to do that. And also, it just feels like Waddle has way more upside. Like, if one of them's going to go out there and drop 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, it's Waddle. It's not Hopkins. With Hopkins, you're just hoping for like a 5-yard fade touchdown. You go at the end zone, and then maybe the occasional like chunk play. But Waddle's got way more upside. He's much more involved in the offense, at least still. Had a couple of bad drops last week that really sort of limited his production. But I would go Waddle over Hopkins this week. Other actives here, seems in general like the whole Jaguars offense, they're all questionable right now, but it does seem like they're all sort of trending towards playing. I've got Brian Thomas, he seems likely to suit up, as does Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. So I think that, assuming everybody plays, the only one who seems like they're leaning towards not playing feels like we're probably going to be looking at Gabe Davis missing this game. So if that happens, I think you could still play Brian Thomas. I'd be firing him up. I'm playing him in every league I have him. So I know it's a little bit scary there, but I still think I want to get him into my lineups. Other than that, though, like Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, if they both play, I don't really want to go there at all. It just feels a little too risky. Paul, anybody have a sneaky running back play? You lost Brian Robinson last second. I'll think on that while I run through this, but I think. Do you mean Julius Chestnut? Um, he'd be maybe interesting if you're really desperate. You're hoping that. I was like, who is Julius Thomas? Yeah, he's interesting. You're hoping in that case that Pollard misses time. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, Dalvin Cook could get a lot of work this week. I hate it because he's disgusting, but Zeke didn't travel with the team, so that's potentially interesting. You could maybe go Emmanuel Wilson if you want to hope that Jacobs isn't healthy. If Etienne misses, Dearness Johnson's not the worst option. He could catch a lot of passes in the game they'll be trailing. That's just off the top of my head, though. There could be some other options out there. Other guys that are going to be active, we've got T.J. Hawkinson and Puka Nacua. They'll both be active. Hawkinson, I think you can play him. He should be fully involved in the Vikings offense. They waited. They gave him a lot of time. He was coming up right on the cusp of playing last week, and then just barely didn't suit up. And they had 10 days. He should have no snap count or no snap limitations here. So I think that you can pretty confidently play Hawkinson as like a low-end tight end one. And then Puka Nacua, you're going to play him this week. Obviously, it sucks that he got banged up. It makes me more confident in Cooper Kupp than Puka Nacua if I had to like pick one of the two, but I think he should be fine. Stafford's still a solid stream. The weather is a little bit iffy in Seattle this week, so I wouldn't expect that game to like turn into a shootout, especially without DK active on the other side. But Puka's too involved. I think you're looking at him as a guy you should just be starting regardless. Moving on to the inactives, some surprises here. Not a surprise though. T. Higgins, he'll be inactive. The dude just can't seem to get on the field right now. Makes sense. Doesn't have a contract. I don't think he's going to want to be playing if he's hurt. It makes a lot of sense for him just to wait for himself to get healthy there. But the crazy thing there is that also Charlie Jones and Jermaine Burton, they're inactive, as is Zach Moss. So the Bengals are actually pretty short-handed right now. You're looking at a situation where I think Chase Brown should be in line for a pretty big game here. That's funny. You just asked about him, Riley Smith. So yeah, I think that I do think Chase Brown's a really solid play. He should be in line for a lot of work. And then like deeper leagues, if you want to go with Mike Gesicki or even Yoshi Voss is interesting. I think Gesicki is like a really nice tight end streaming option, especially with all those pass catching weapons gone. So I think I'd be looking at those guys as decent plays here. So yeah, Riley, Chase Brown, Marvin Harrison, or Jayden Reed. I think I'd go Chase Brown there. Marvin Harrison has a really tough matchup against the Bears. I love Harrison rest of the season. This week's a little tough for him, but after that, it's kind of wheels up for me. So don't like be worried about Marvin Harrison at all. It's just this is a really tough matchup for him. The Bears are a really tough pass defense, so I really wouldn't want to go there. And then Jayden Reed, I love him too, but it's just like it's a little tough because the Lions have actually been pretty good defensively lately, and then Jordan Love playing banged up. We've seen a lot of Romeo Doubs lately. It just feels like Chase Brown's a lot more locked in with a ton of volume this week against a really bad Raiders team. So I'd get Chase Brown in there, but those are three really good options. Having to bench two of those guys is definitely a good problem to have. And then Mr. Trace Saracinco. Is Brian Thomas a safe play with the injury? You've got JSN. Obviously, it's not the safest play, so if you want to go for like a floor play, like if you're a significant favorite in your matchup, I don't hate the idea of playing someone like JSN over him. That being said, I think that Brian Thomas, like it sounds like it's not a very significant injury. He's a young player; they're effectively out of it, so like it doesn't make sense for them to rush him back and play him if he's not. Like if they're worried about him re-aggravating it, it feels like they would not do that. So I think Brian Thomas is a pretty safe play, assuming he is active. The good news is you got JSN same time, so you don't have to like make that decision right now. So yeah, I do think that I would be looking at Brian Thomas as someone that I'd be looking to get in my lineup, but obviously there's there's a little bit of risk there. Anytime you're playing a player that's a little banged up, but he's just got so much more ceiling than JSN that I would play Brian Thomas over him. You're welcome, Riley. Yeah, I didn't actually know about about Zach Moss till this morning either. So other inactives, Tyjae Spears, he'll be inactive. Means Tony Pollard is super necessary to the offense. Like Paul mentioned, Julius Chestnut could get some work, especially if if Tony Pollard's banged up, you're probably going to see some Julius Chestnut this week. Like it'll be more than normal, but I wouldn't expect him to be fantasy relevant unless they're really just leading us on about Pollard. Amari Cooper, sort of a surprise inactive. He's been dealing with a wrist injury all week, so it wasn't like the most shocking thing, but he is going to miss this game. It makes Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir relatively interesting. Obviously gives a bump to Dalton Kincaid. I don't think it means a whole lot, though. Like, Amari Cooper wasn't really involved in the offense either of the last 2 weeks. I know he scored a touchdown last week, so he's going to get more and more involved in the offense as the season goes on, but I do think that in general, I wasn't looking to really trust Amari Cooper in my lineup just yet. I want to see it, so I think it's okay there. Just keep an eye on it. Hopefully he's back in action next week. Surprise inactive, though, Brian Robinson. He will be inactive this week, so that's going to mean a lot of work for Austin Ekeler probably, and a really good matchup against the Giants. So Ekeler's a really great starting option this week. Other than that, though, I don't think you're going to go to like any of the secondary running backs there. I don't really want to trust any of that. Probably a small bump to the passing game. Still have to do that. Maybe Jaden Daniels is a slightly higher shot of scoring a rushing touchdown this week. So I don't think it's too shocking, but it always sucks getting caught with your pants down a little bit with running backs getting declared out this late. Jonathan Brooks, he's inactive. That's not entirely shocking. Keep an eye on it, though. If they don't activate him to the roster by Wednesday of next week, he'll be shut down for the year. So Chuba is, we're 4 days away from him potentially just being a really solid asset all season. So keep an eye on that. Adam Thielen, he'll be inactive this week as well. I don't really want to play any Panthers if I can avoid it, but like if I have to play one, I think, well, obviously Chuba, you're playing Chuba, but other than that, like I don't really want to play Coker or Leggett, but if you have to, they will be involved in the offense, so you could do that. I mentioned that already. Zach Moss, he will be inactive this week, so a lot of work for Chase Brown coming here. Kendre Miller and Jamal Williams, they're going to be inactive. Doesn't mean a whole lot. Like we're going to see a lot of Alvin Kamara for sure, but it does make Taysom Hill an interesting play if you can play him at tight end. He's effectively going to be the RB2 for this team. So against the Panthers, you could easily see Taysom Hill finding himself in the end zone. Definitely a really solid opportunity for him there. STS, Dak or Cousins? Wow, same game. That's fun. That's a really tough one. I think I lean Dak. I really do think Dak and this offense are going to turn things around over the back half of the season. I think they got to be realizing now that they just need to air it out. They're not going to be able to run the ball. They got to do what they did last year and lean on that. And I think Dak's got more ceiling there. I think the Falcons are going to be able to run the ball pretty effectively against the Cowboys. So I think you'll see a lot of Bijan and Algier. So you'll be hoping at least that Dak can air it out and maybe they'll be playing from behind. So I'd play Dak there, but I don't think you can really go wrong. They're both like fringe QB1s for me. And then Trace Cinco, would I drop Jonathan Brooks? I wouldn't do it just yet. I'd hold off through Wednesday. Like if he's gonna come back, I think that you could, at a minimum, if you don't believe in him, you could probably trade him to the Chuba manager for something. He's a really talented player. The Panthers obviously suck, but like we've seen that Chuba's been really fantasy relevant, even though they suck. So if Jonathan Brooks ended up finding himself in that role, that'd be really valuable. So I wouldn't drop him just yet. Obviously, if he's not activated by Wednesday, you could drop him, but if he is activated, I think if nothing else, you could use him as trade bait because he is a really good player, and I don't want to just put him on waiver wires. Other inactives, we got Dallas Goedert. He'll be inactive. Just means you're playing the same usuals for the Eagles. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. They're all going to be locked in. DK Metcalf and Noah Fant are the last two inactives here. They'll be inactive this week. Makes Lockett and JSN a little bit more interesting if you want to go there at the wide receiver position. It's kind of like low-end flex plays for me. Again, the weather's not great. It was kind of like a trap last week playing Lockett. So I don't love the idea there, but if you want to, you can. It just means I'm not going to stream Geno this week either. It's just tough to trust him without DK in the lineup. So that'll do it for all these injury updates here. If you guys have any other questions, I'll sit around for a minute or two, answer those, and then if you guys have any questions that I'm not here for, just let me know in the comments here. I'll try to get back to you guys before the games kick off. It looks like we got one more. Flex PPR, Rico Dowdle or Xavier Legette. Wow. I think I'd go Rico there. I really hope that they're not just going to be looking to play a bunch of Dalvin Cook this week. I think they've got to know they can't do that. Like, at least in my eyes, it's pretty clear that Rico is the most talented running back on the roster. So I think Rico's the guy they have to play over him. And Legette, you're kind of hoping for a touchdown. He has scored a couple times, but I just don't really trust the Panthers' offense right now, especially with Bryce Young under center. Jalen Coker's kind of looked a little bit better than Legette for me lately as well. So I think I'd go Rico there, but either way, I think you're hoping for a touchdown. It just feels like Rico's got a better shot to get it for you this week. So yeah, up next I'll do my Week 9 recap. So I'll just go over all the injury updates after these games. That'll come out Monday night. I'll also go over any of like the relevant risers and fallers, and then we'll get into waivers, starts and sits, trade videos. All that stuff comes every single week. So just stay tuned for all that. And thanks for stopping by, guys. If you guys have any more questions, just let me know in the comments. I'll make sure I get back to you. And good luck this week. Let's go get some wins. Appreciate you guys. I'll catch you guys later.